For more than 2 decades, Simon Cowell ruled television with an iron stare and a single word that could turn a nobody into a superstar. American Idol, The X Factor, Got Talent, his shows shaped an entire generation. To millions, he was the sharp-tongued kingmaker, feared and admired in equal measure. But behind the empire was a man scarred by loneliness, haunted by rejection, and broken by tragedies money could never erase. Born into privilege yet starved of affection, Simon grew up restless, invisible, and desperate to be noticed. He clawed his way from a mailroom nobody remembered to a mogul whose verdict shook the world. Yet the higher he rose, the heavier the shadows became, betrayals that turned friends into enemies, scandals that stained his name, accidents that nearly ended his life, and choices that left him unrecognizable even to himself. Now at 65, Simon Cowell's story is not simply one of fame. It is the heartbreaking truth of how a man who judged the world has been judged by fate itself. Simon Cowell was born in 1959 in London, into a family that looked glamorous on the outside but felt cold on the inside. His father, a strict music executive, valued discipline over tenderness. His mother, elegant and admired, remained distant. What Simon craved most, simple words of pride, never came. At school he was restless and rebellious, never the star pupil, always the boy overlooked. Those early wounds carved the shadow that followed him into adulthood, the belief that he was never enough. Out of pity, not pride, his father secured him a job in the mailroom at EMI. There, Simon carried coffee to producers who never learned his name, and sorted fan mail for artists who filled stadiums while he felt invisible in their shadow. He later confessed he often cried in the bathroom after work, broken by the fear that his life had peaked before it had even begun. Yet in that humiliation, something hardened. Rejection became his teacher, and invisibility became the fire that would one day make him impossible to ignore. Simon Cowell was born in 1959 in London, into a family that looked glamorous on the outside but felt cold on the inside. His father, a strict music executive, valued discipline over tenderness. His mother, elegant and admired, remained distant. What Simon craved most, simple words of pride, never came. At school he was restless and rebellious, never the star pupil, always the boy overlooked. Those early wounds carved the shadow that followed him into adulthood, the belief that he was never enough. Out of pity, not pride, his father secured him a job in the mailroom at EMI. There, Simon carried coffee to producers who never learned his name and sorted fan mail for artists who filled stadiums while he felt invisible in their shadow. He later confessed he often cried in the bathroom after work, broken by the fear that his life had peaked before it had even begun. Yet in that humiliation, something hardened. Rejection became his teacher, and invisibility became the fire that would one day make him impossible to ignore. The 1990s gave Simon a second chance. After the collapse of his first record label left him bankrupt and humiliated, he clawed his way back into the industry through BMG. No longer chasing critical respect, he turned to the one thing that mattered most, what ordinary people loved. Critics mocked him for signing acts like Westlife or Robson and Jerome, but their records sold by the millions. Each hit silenced his doubters, proving that Simon understood the heartbeat of the crowd better than anyone. Then came television. In 2001, Pop Idol introduced the world not just to aspiring singers but to Simon himself, sharp, unfiltered, brutally honest. Viewers who were tired of polite lies saw in him a refreshing, if ruthless, truth. Overnight, Simon Cowell became a household name. With American Idol, The X Factor, and Got Talent, his empire spread across continents. At his peak, more than 600 million people tuned in worldwide. He was no longer invisible. He was the face of modern entertainment, a kingmaker whose raised eyebrow could decide destinies. For years, Simon's empire was built on control, contracts, ratings, and power, but his personal life was far less certain. In 2013, headlines exploded when it was revealed he was expecting a child with Lauren Silverman, the wife of his close friend. Overnight, the master judge became the judged. Tabloids called it betrayal, friends turned their backs, and Simon admitted in rare candor, "It was not something I'm proud of." Yet, from scandal came salvation. In February 2014, he held his newborn son, Eric, in his arms. The ruthless mogul, known for his cutting remarks, discovered a gentler role, fatherhood. Business trips gave way to bedtime stories, sharp critiques to lullabies. He confessed, "My world suddenly wasn't about ratings or contracts, it was about him." Still, shadows lingered. The scandal cost him friendships and trust that would never fully return. But Eric became his anchor, giving him the unconditional love Simon had long craved since childhood. It was a paradox. Out of betrayal grew redemption. Out of scandal came a second chance, not as an executive, but as a father. Even as fatherhood softened him, life delivered blows that stripped away his armor. In 2015, Simon lost his mother, Julie, the one figure whose approval he had always longed for. Years earlier, his father had died before ever witnessing his son's rise. Now, with both parents gone, Simon felt the silence of success more deeply than ever. Then came 2020. In the courtyard of his Malibu home, a test ride on a new electric bike ended in catastrophe. Thrown violently to the ground, his back shattered in multiple places. 6 hours of surgery, a steel rod in his spine, and the chilling realization that he had come within a minute of losing his life. For a man defined by control, lying broken in a hospital bed was unbearable. As if fate were mocking him, another accident in 2022 left him injured again. Headlines ridiculed him as reckless, fragile, even foolish. Behind the sarcasm was a truth Simon could not escape. No amount of fame or fortune could shield him from fragility. The kingmaker of television was now struggling just to stand. If the accidents nearly broke his body, another tragedy pierced his heart. In 2024, news spread that Liam Payne, one of the boys Simon had handpicked to form One Direction, was gone at just 31 after a fall from a hotel balcony. For millions, it was shocking. For Simon, it was devastating, like losing a son. He had built Liam's career from a nervous teenager's audition into global stardom. To see that light extinguished so cruelly left him hollow. Friends recalled how he held his own son, Eric, tighter, as if every laugh, every bedtime story carried the weight of what Liam would never have. Behind closed doors, Simon replayed old audition tapes, hearing youthful laughter now turned into ghosts. He could build empires, engineer careers, and dominate global television. But he could not rewrite this ending. For the first time, the man who once controlled the spotlight was forced to face complete helplessness. Liam's death scarred him in ways scandals and accidents never could, reminding him that life's brightest stars can vanish without warning, and no amount of power can bring them back. Today, Simon Cowell's empire still hums. Got Talent and The X Factor remain global formats watched by millions and still generating vast revenue. His fortune, estimated at over $600 million, stretches across mansions in Malibu, London, and Beverly Hills. Yet Simon speaks of these riches with detachment. He has already written his will. Eric will not inherit billions. Instead, the money will flow into foundations for children's healthcare, scholarships, and creative education. "I don't want him to inherit money," Simon said. "I want him to inherit values." Even his appearance tells a story of surrender. Gone are the fillers and Botox that once drew ridicule. His lined face, silvering hair, and frailer frame now carry the dignity of survival. The man mocked for vanity has chosen authenticity, wearing his years instead of hiding them. For all the stars he discovered, perhaps Simon's greatest legacy is not on stage, but in what he gives back, turning privilege into possibility and pain into empathy. His life reminds us that true power lies not in ratings, but in the lives touched long after the lights fade. At 65, Simon Cowell is no longer the ruthless kingmaker who terrified contestants with a single look. He is a man scarred by loss, humbled by survival, and softened by fatherhood. The boy who once cried alone in a school bathroom, invisible to the world, has become a father who measures success in laughter at bedtime, not in ratings or contracts. His story is not one of perfection, but of transformation. He has stumbled through scandals, endured ridicule, and faced mortality twice. Yet he continues to stand not as a symbol of invincibility, but as proof that even the most powerful are fragile, and that fragility can lead to clarity. Perhaps the true lesson of Simon's journey is this: empires fade, fortunes shift, and fame withers, but love, humility, and presence endure. His legacy is not just in the stars he discovered, but in the reminder that behind every sharp tongue lies a human heart longing for peace. And now it turns to you. What do you take from Simon's journey? Share your reflections in the comments, subscribe for more untold stories, and let us honor not just the legends, but the fragile humanity within them.